Hey everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today's fashion edition is green with envy. I was inspired by you-know-who. Let's kick it off with Angelina Jolie. Now, you guys know a lot of the times she dresses really nicely for her body type. She has a few style concerns like a shorter torso and longer, very thin limbs, but she usually balances that out really nicely and gives herself a very nice hourglass silhouette. This is the Golden Globes. She's wearing a beautiful long-sleeved emerald green gown by Versace, featuring an elegant bateau neckline and angular shoulder pads. Now, I am not 100% behind this color on her. She looks great in green, but something about this shade looks like it's washing her out just a tad, almost like it's got a little bit too much of a pale hue to it or something, like she needed something a little richer or darker perhaps. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the lighting, but the dress itself is quite beautiful. It's very shoulder dominant though, and I don't love that for her. She is quite busty, and again, she's got slightly wider, boxier torso, just in the fact that she's got a shorter torso. So those broader shoulders at times, if they're accentuated with something like a pointy shoulder pad like here, plus the bateau neckline, just kind of really widening this upper body section here, it would have been more successful as a V-neck, a round neck, or just simply without the pointed shoulder pads. Other than that, I quite like the texture. I also think that she could stand to have the waistline a little bit lower or just a little bit more definition under the bust would have helped things out a little bit, because without that, it's just kind of accentuating the shortness of the torso. So it's not perfect from a silhouette perspective. It's not necessarily her best color, but overall, she still looks beautiful in it. I just think a couple of tweaks would have perfected this outfit. Here we have Dakota Johnson, one of my favorite actresses, in this sort of suspicious color. This is not my favorite color green. It's a little bit one of those colors that can remind you too much of too many not great things. It's not the best green. It's not the easiest one to wear, and it's not the best color just in general. It's called an olive hue. This off-the-shoulder Valentino number she wore during the 2019 Toronto Film Festival, and it features a sweet ruffled detail across the bodice, a belted waist, and a gorgeous floor-length skirt. I am behind the ruffled off-the-shoulder neckline situation. I am totally behind the skirt. I am not behind this belt. I don't like it. It doesn't work with the ruffling across the bodice here. This dress achieves great balance with the fuller skirt and the ruffles across here, but this cluttering that's happening at the waistline from this belt, because just below the big ruffles, we have a sash before the skirt, which has pleating, and to add fullness, it may have helped to either lower that sash a little bit and the waistline a little bit, and the skirt, have that start a little bit lower, not necessarily a drop waist, just a little bit lower on her frame, or just to simplify the look overall and allow her waist a little bit of a moment to show up, so to speak, by removing the sash. That, I think, would have been a lot more successful. And again, the color, while it's not my favorite, I think it looks fine on her. She looks really nice. It goes with her skin tone and her hair color really nicely. So I think it looks fine on her. It's just not the easiest color to wear. Okay, on to one of the most famous and iconic green looks ever. This is a Versace gown that J.Lo wore to the Grammys. Way back in 2000, this was considered quite controversial, where it inspired headlines thanks to its plunging design and sheer leaf pattern fabric. While this is super iconic, I have never understood this look. It looks like a beach cover-up. It looks like she is going to the beach. Like, it's a beach dress thingy, you know? It's not a dress. I've never been on board with it in terms of like an awards ceremony, an events carpet, red carpet, blue carpet in this case. I don't think it works in this setting, but it was dramatic. It was a showstopper, no denying that. She looks impeccable in it. It's not my favorite because it doesn't fit the location or the occasion. Other than that, you know what I mean, for a beach, it's fine. But for a dress, on to this stunning sequined Prada number featuring 3/4 length sleeves, a plunging neckline, and a beautiful metallic embellishments all over that together made a serious red carpet fashion statement here on Sarah Paulson. It is really pretty. This dress is pretty. Sarah Paulson is a very hit and miss gal when it comes to her fashions on the red carpet and her looks in general. Her fashion sense is a little bit quirky. There's just been a lot of questionable outfits in her red carpet history. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest. This one is beautiful. I absolutely love the embroidery, the 3/4 length sleeve. I wasn't fully behind it, but like the more I look at it, I think it balances nicely with the extra deep plunge V-neck here. It just adds a little bit of balance and kind of encourages you to just just keep looking up, lead up to her face. Her earrings, I think, complement it just fine. They seem to match the embellishments on the dress. And the silhouette of it is nice as well. There's nothing competing with the dress and its busyness because it does have a lot going on. So I think that was really smart in terms of her styling as well. But I could see it being a polarizing option. You guys have to leave it in the comments what you think about this Sarah Paulson dress. Is it too much? Is it not good? Is it good? I don't know. I think it's pretty, but something about it isn't 100% working for me. It's not something that I would wear. It's not something that I'm like, I love it, I'm drawn to it, but it is pretty. But on to something that is another disappointing Gucci moment. I don't know what it is, but Gucci has had so many misses lately. They dressed Billie Eilish in something really terrible. They dressed Dakota Johnson in something really terrible. Here we have Elle Fanning. And I like parts of this, but honestly, I feel like it would have been so much more beautiful with different colors. Like even some pinks or blues for these embellishments along here and these flowers and the ribbons and whatnot. It's a really earthy look, which is unique. And it's a bit whimsical in its vibe, which I like. But I feel like there needed to be a little bit of a pop of color somewhere to brighten it up. Like as you can see, there's almost this sort of aquamarine bit showing under her sleeves and along the hem of the dress. It needed a little more of that somewhere to brighten it just a tad and bring it out of this almost drab. It's like bordering drab, the color scheme here. Just could have elevated it and kept it just a little fresh and kept it away from leaning drab. It did create a really beautiful balance, which is really challenging with so much happening on the sleeves, and the waist is a flattering rise for her as well. And I like the delicate spaghetti straps here. It's not just completely off the shoulder because, as we know, that can be really hard to wear, but it also can cause things to look a little too shoulder heavy and like the dress is falling down, you're going to fall out of it. So it's really nice when things have even just a tiny spaghetti strap. I find those to be way more successful than things that have no shoulder strap at all. So I do like that aspect of it. And I don't even dislike like the ribbons and the flowers and stuff because it is so very much on theme with that sort of whimsical woodland fairy sort of a vibe. And it goes really nicely with her features. Like her aesthetic can lean that way really easily. So this works in so many ways. I feel like it just needed something to bring it to life a little bit more for her. Now, this strapless mini dress by Versace is featuring a ruffled detail down the left side and paired perfectly with Selena Gomez's matching pointy toe pumps in this same bold shade. This is a great look from a styling perspective. The necklaces and the bob are giving a great balance to this lime green mini dress, and her shoes are a perfect match, and I love that. I'm a sucker for a perfectly matching shoe, but this just goes to show how easy it is. You have your favorite pair of pumps covered in the fabric. It's so much more cohesive. It's so advantageous when you're going to be photographed in situations like this. Now, I do wish that the dress came up just a tad higher because it does look like it's falling down a little bit, and maybe even just a tad longer or something. Something about it's giving the impression that it's just ever so slightly too small. I think if it were just a tiny bit higher or had tiny spaghetti straps like Elle Fanning's just did, I think that would have helped it along so much. But it's fine. I'm not mad at it. Even if just on the edges it came up a little bit, almost like it gave a sweetheart neckline, like I think that would have helped a little bit less of a falling out type of look. But I quite like the fit and the style of it though for her. The asymmetry is really complimentary. She has a little bit of a shorter torso, proportionally at times, at least visually, it can come across as she's being a tad bit short-waisted. So having that asymmetry and ruffling off to the side takes away from any focal point being created out of her waistline there, which is really smart styling. It's just going to flatter her figure so much more. I do think though that a half up or an updo would have been so much more stunning than the down bob. While it is a perfectly blown out bob, it looks great, or lob rather, I still think something just lifted away a little bit would have been nicer. That's all. This is just a little bit heavy and chunky right here. I think giving her a little bit of height with an updo of some sort or a half up would have been all the more perfect. Here we have Lupita Nyong'o in this show-stopping green Gucci dress. The gown featured short sleeves, embellishments along the shoulders, and a belted waist that gave way to a full pleated skirt. And this, again, is another just lovely, whimsical, ethereal dress. I absolutely love the sheerness to the skirt. It's so swishy. It looks like a dream to wear. It's so beautiful, the fabric of this, and the color looks amazing on her. The only thing I don't love is the heaviness on these shoulders. It's somewhat balanced by the deep V-neck, but not quite fully. It's just still a little bit too much up here for her. It almost looks like her shoulders are shrugged up in some of the pictures, like she's like hunched up or something. So just fewer embellishments would have solved this problem, or maybe just not paired up with quite long of sleeves. I think that the combination of the longer sleeves and the tons of embellishments across here is just cluttering up the upper portion of the dress too much. It's taking away from the delicate vibe that the dress gives everywhere else and just creating a visual weight that's not as complimentary as it would be if they had edited that down just a tad. Now next up we have a really interesting dress in a shade we don't often see people wear because it's one of those shades that's really, really hard to wear, which is Chartreuse. We have Emma Stone in this embellished gown by Elle. It includes long sleeves and a thigh-high slit that shows off her matching peep-toe heels. Again, you guys, I'm a sucker for matching heels, so that part of it I absolutely love. I do not love how the lining of the dress looks to be a slightly different, almost more brownish hue than the rest of the dress. I'm not loving that, but I could give that a pass. I would have totally gone full updo rather than this asymmetrical low chignon. The intricate detailing along the shoulders is so delicate and beautiful, and it's got almost like a bateau neckline, but not quite, that I think just an updo would have just helped her to elongate up out of it. It would have increased her vertical line and allowed for the dress to really shine. I feel like the chignon off to the side here is just not quite working. It's just not flowing as nicely. It's almost looking a little bit messy. So that I'm not behind the hairstyle for it here, but Emma Stone has a little bit of a rectangular shape. She doesn't have the most well-defined waistline, but she is quite evenly proportioned. So that's really nice and advantageous here. So this muted waistline that we have is allowing for a more streamlined look by not drawing the eye in and creating any sort of a focal point of the waistline or dividing up her vertical line. It's allowing it to just be a really nice, beautiful vertical flow, not interrupted by anything, which is really, really helpful to her. And the color is just so unique. I can't decide if I love it or if I'm just like, it's not quite the best. I can't decide. Leave it in the comments what you think about this color on her. As for the dress itself though, I think it's quite nice. On to one of the designers who I find to be a very, very successful designer when it comes to dressing a variety of body types. I am going to do a fashion edition dedicated to Zach Paulson as well as other designers. This dress by him has these almost chevron inspired geometric shapes down the front of this emerald green off the shoulder gown that Reese Witherspoon wore to the 2018 SAG Awards. And this is insane. This color is perfect for her. This angled satin is so slenderizing across the pattern of this dress, and it's positioned perfectly across her waistline here. You can see it's just further accentuating and flattering her waistline, her figure here, so beautifully and perfectly. It allows for her hips to look ever so slightly wider and her waist to look ever so slightly thinner based on the way this pattern was perfectly laid to match her body. Only thing I will say is that the seam down the front center area here by her like upper thigh area looks like it's pulling quite a little bit. So it might have been just a tad too tight around the thighs or like lap area. But other than that, the dress is perfect, so I would give it a pass. The flutter off the shoulder sleeves managed to not create a top heavy look that they were at risk of doing, which is helped along by the movement of those sleeves. So they're not creating this sort of widening effect that some designs could have, and it really makes her eyes and her hair pop. It's a gorgeous color choice, and her earrings also are just perfect for this occasion. So really beautiful option here. On to a Dior number here from Julianne Moore at the 2019 Cannes Film Festival. This gorgeous emerald green gown's fitted silhouette includes a sleeve detail that drapes down to the floor, making a serious impact on the red carpet here. And this color is absolutely magnificent on her. I think it's so gorgeous against her red hair, but I do think it looks almost just a tad low. And I think that oftentimes we see this with strapless pieces, and it's just one of those things, but I think it's not helped along by the fact of the location of the waistline, because it's almost giving a droopy effect in part on how that train comes down. It's got that sort of angle, but really I think the waistline is just too high, so it's messing with the effect. If it was just ever so slightly lower, just a tad, it could have enhanced this look even more. Or if it just came up a little bit higher, ever so slightly, it wouldn't give that sort of drooping look. The sheer shoulder effect is really, really gorgeous, and I think the dress is beautiful in general. It's just not perfect yet. We're not getting to the perfect green dress yet. Where is it? Has it ever been made? Maybe. Let's move on to a stunning jade green dress here, brought to us by Taylor Swift, made by Michael Kors. This gown features a strapless sweetheart neckline and a cutout at the bodice. And this is a very Michael Kors dress. He does these simple, modern, well-constructed, just flawless, sleek sort of numbers all the time. He really likes that sort of design aesthetic that's nice and clean and tidy. And it's absolutely flawless here when it comes to the dress itself. And again, she has the body and the frame to carry these sorts of looks off because she has that length to her torso where having a giant cutout there is not going to interfere with her waistline. It's not going to shorten her in any way. In fact, this elongated her a lot because that skirt is just so long, so sleek, so simple. The look's all monochrome. There's absolutely nothing breaking up the vertical line. So she looks so tall and statuesque in this. And it also works well for her because she is slender. She's not super busty or anything like that. So she can wear these types of strapless bodices without it looking like it's falling down, which we have seen other ladies who have a little bit more in the bust or just simply the more straight across tend to look like they're falling or drooping a little bit more like Julianne's did. Here we do not have that, in part helped along by that sweetheart style shape, but also just it's part of anatomy and figures, and some people can get away with strapless stuff a lot easier than others, and that's okay. On to another Dior. This, again, almost like a jade green, very unique color, featuring delicate spaghetti straps, a belt detail, and pretty pleated skirt. I do love the texture of this. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous texture across the skirt. It is magnificent. The only thing that I wish is that the cups came up just a tad bit higher for her here because it almost is giving a little bit too much space across here. It needed to be either a little bit higher to just go ahead and give a clean line there, or a little bit wider even perhaps. It just needed to fit a little better across this area where the straps begin to balance that décolletage. Diagonal gathering across the bodice there is allowing that belt to not become clunky or chunky. It's allowing it to just give the skirt a nice place to flow from. So it's really working nicely here. But then we have Lily Collins' frilly off-the-shoulder mini dress by Giambattista Valli, featuring black belt details down the bodice and an all-over pretty floral print. Okay, I'm not fully confident that Giambattista Valli understands boobs. He squashed Rihanna's really, really badly. I'll link the video for that here. It looked painful. It looked ouchy. And here, she's got a belt that looks like a bit too on the boob. It looks like it's on top of her boob. And I don't like the double belt that's happening here anyway, because it creates what looks like a bubble across the waistline, which isn't necessarily very flattering. It's almost giving a look like there's a pooch in between these belts. And nobody wants that. I do like the idea of the skirt, although the ruffling of it almost is giving this like uneven hemline. So I cannot tell if it's meant to have a bit of an asymmetry, in which case it's not dramatic enough to look intentional. So it needed a more dramatic asymmetrical hemline to give us the impression of, oh, it's supposed to be asymmetry, or if it's just part of how she's standing and it's meant to be straight across, but there's so much fabric there and it's in movement that it's giving that look. But it's just looking a little bit sloppy. It's looking a little bit amateur. Would have benefited from some editing. I even like the ruffling across the top here. And see, notice this is a perfect example of when you have something kind of off the shoulder, but that's got a lot of volume around here. If you have your hair up in a bun, it just kind of allows you to feel elongated up out of it. It looks more elegant. It looks a lot nicer. So this is a perfect example of the right type of hairstyle for this type of silhouette, but the belts are throwing things off. It could have just been one thick black band. I don't know, but this one is up way too high. It's like on top of her boobs. What's happening? But here we have custom Vera Wang on Zendaya, featuring a sheer corset-like top and a thigh-high slit. She completed this look with matching emerald Brian Atwood pumps and a glitzy cuff and earrings by Cartier. This is a stunning look. I love the unctuous satin skirt here. It looks so nice. It looks very high quality, very, very comfortable, very, very buttery, beautiful, beautiful fabric, and no seams in sight on this satin fabric. It is gorgeous. I will say I'm not fully behind the bodice. I think the cups look like they're not high enough. I feel like if they came up just a tad bit higher, they don't even have to have the whole line of it up higher, just like a bit more of a curve to it or something. It would have looked less like it's slipping down. It is an edgy, saucy sort of a look. It's just so well constructed. The heels and styling are also on point, looking beautiful as a cohesive look overall. It's not one that many people could pull off, and certainly not that wearable. It is a beautiful look nonetheless. What was your favorite green dress moment from today's video, and which one do you think was the biggest fail? Please leave it in the comments. I cannot wait to read them. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye!